And welcome back, everyone. This is a great day here in Washington, D.C., and our next guest is from FEMA, Bullock-Cassine, and she's the Policy and Governance Program Analyst in the Office of the CIO. Jay, welcome to our program this afternoon. It's a great Earth Day. This is our 6th year with our Earth Day Tech Summit, and beautiful day outside here in Washington, D.C. How are you and how have you been?
I am well, and it is a beautiful Earth Day, and I am just so happy to be here with the BDPA professionals to present what I know about FEMA and climate. So I am very excited to be here.
Excellent. And also, again, like you and I mentioned, even some of the STEM careers that young men and women may be interested in, especially those youngsters that are in middle school, high school, and some of the roles that your agency will have, especially in collaborating with other agencies during a time of need. So let's get started. Let us know what you look forward to.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead and present my slides here. In keeping with your BDPA Earth Day theme of Cyber Earth and the climate crisis, I would like to outline some of FEMA's, the Federal Emergency Management Agency's, efforts to address the existential threats the climate crisis poses to our nation. In introducing you to these efforts, I would also like for you to make a connection on the necessity of having STEM professionals to tackle the climate crisis in organizations like FEMA, other government agencies, academia, or even the private sector. That will help us to navigate to a better future. I will use FEMA's efforts as an example of the strategic vision, goals, and efforts underway. As young burgeoning STEM professionals, use this information to help identify types of skills, education, and experiences you need to effectively participate. So when the opportunities present, you will be prepared. So I like to start with a little introduction, who I am and a little bit about my journey. I joined FEMA in 2017 because I believed in its mission to help people before, during, and after disasters. After I retired from the Air Force, I wanted to work with underserved communities suffering from environmental stressors caused by climate change. While I had lots of skills and experience working with people during my Air Force career, I did not have a background in environment or public policy. So I enrolled in and obtained a Master of Science degree from George Mason University in public policy with an environmental focus. When the opportunity came to join FEMA, I jumped at it. It was a perfect organization to marry my skills, experiences, and desires to be an agent of change. I work for the office, as Perry said, I work for the Office of the Chief Information Officer as a program analyst, specializing in policy development for information technology. As each of you know, IT is an enabling function which allows organizations to accomplish their missions. IT is embedded in everything we do, but to be successful, it must be employed with security, equity, and standards. That is why effectively written communication for IT policy is vital. As STEM professionals, I encourage you to understand the role of policy and communication in your day-to-day activities. Allow it to expand your fields of study. It is not only about the technologies, but how those technologies are successfully implemented through effective policy and communication. I provide this background because I am fortunate to work for an organization that not only fulfills my needs for employment, but also my want to affect positive change and one of the most vexing existential threats we face. As each of you proceed in your professional journeys, keep this in mind. Strive to marry your skills, knowledge, and experiences in ways that reflects your life's purpose. So when opportunities present, you are prepared. As such, while my topic for today's discussion is broader than my current role at FEMA, this information is in line with my role as an emergency manager and an advocate for community resiliency. This information is publicly available on our FEMA.gov website, and we'll introduce you to some of FEMA's efforts around building climate resiliency. But first, let me introduce you to FEMA's core values. They are compassion, fairness, integrity, and respect. These values form the foundation of who we are and what we believe and who we want to be. We are committed to these core values, and they apply to our interactions with everyone every single day. As a FEMA employee, I'm an emergency manager, and in today's environment, we all must be advocates for community resiliency. So as an emergency manager, I point you to the link on FEMA.gov. At the bottom of this site, there's a link there. FEMA.gov takes you to READY.gov, and it gives you the resources for your personal preparedness for disasters. Please go to the site and make a plan and build your emergency kits. As further motivation, I show the following. This is a slide from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA. In 2021, there were 20 weather or climate disaster events with losses exceeding $1 billion each to affect the United States. These events included 1 drought event, 2 flooding events, 11 severe storm events, 4 tropical cyclone events, 1 wildfire event, and a winter storm event. Overall, these events resulted in the deaths of 724 people and had significant economic effects on the areas impacted. I show this slide to illustrate the severity of the challenges we face and highlight the increased intensity, frequency, and cost of these disasters. I would like to refer you to resources FEMA makes publicly available. These resources highlight the work being done and assist FEMA's state, local, and territorial partners to access available resources. So one of those resources, I'll highlight each on this slide. In December 2021, FEMA published FEMA's Resources for Climate Resilience. This document describes available resources communities can use to plan for, respond to, recover from, and mitigate against the adverse impacts of climate change. As climate change increases disaster risk across the country, emergency managers and government officials are beginning to implement strategies to build community resilience. FEMA Resources for Climate Resilience provides a roadmap of programs and initiatives that advance community climate resilience. The FEMA Strategic Plan for FY22 to 26 provides our vision for building the FEMA our nation needs and deserves. Our strategic plan not only talks about climate resilience, but also about equity in our workforce and in our outcomes. To respond to increased demands, we must expand our approach to agency readiness and national preparedness. This video provides an overview of our strategic plan efforts.
We face enormous challenges, new and evolving ones, every second of every day. Natural disasters are more frequent, more intense. The burden on communities, especially for underserved populations, is increasing. And emergency management continues to be put to the test. Now is the time to meet our challenges head on. Now is the time to be bold, to be innovative.
We are instilling equity as a foundation of emergency management. Together, we will harness the power of diversity within our workforce, remove barriers to our programs, adopt new people-first approaches, and seek change that achieves equitable outcomes. Together, we will strengthen what is working and change course when needed.
We will lead climate resilience. Together, we will educate emergency managers on the impact of our changing environment, strengthen communities to better withstand disaster, and leverage future risks as a tool to make better decisions today.
The time is now to promote and sustain a ready FEMA and a prepared nation. The impacts to our climate are significant and the needs of our communities growing. We will strengthen emergency management and posture our agency to take on the threats ahead of us. We will work united with our partners to better support survivors before, during, and after disaster.
From challenge comes change. Change will come as we work together. And only together can we build the FEMA our nation needs and deserves. We all have a role to play. Time is our most precious commodity, and our time is now. Our country is counting on us. Let's begin.
And we'll be right back after these messages.
Now, when any department goes out into the community, we're able to hear the positive responses. And that is a great feeling to know that what we're doing is affecting and impacting the community. In the past, we've heard negative responses about the city being unclean, there's a lot of trash on the ground, or the police, we never see them.
It was important for our residents to feel as though that government was going to be responsive.
People were relying on a 9 to 5 being able to contact about any issues that they had.
We put together a very innovative app that gave our residents access.
IBM assisted the City of Sea Pleasant to incorporate Watson into the My Sea Pleasant app. Any resident who has a question that they want to ask about the city on a 24-hour basis can go into the app and click on Watson to ask it a question.
We had a tree fall, and instead of having to call City Hall, I just went and used the chat and said that there's a tree falling in the middle of the street, and they sent Public Works out to get it for me.
I've used it to report potholes that are in the street. I've used it to see what's going on in the city.
No matter where our Public Works director is, no matter where our employees are, they're able to log in because it is on IBM Cloud and get the service request in real time and respond, in a quick and efficient manner.
It allows them to get to us sooner. On a weekend doesn't matter because it comes through, I'm gonna get it. So I love it. I don't see how we ever did without it.
Every year, we come together here, marvel at the view, and strengthen our resolve to preserve it. This year, we arrive again. Our ambitions are bigger because our obligations are too large to measure, and our opportunities too substantial to squander. At Microsoft, we bring unparalleled sustainability commitments to over 33 million square feet of real estate around the world, creating modern workplaces where nature is the building block of our designs. Because thinking sustainably, building sustainably, living sustainably, and working sustainably is in our nature. So this year, let's commit ourselves to making Earth Day every day.
Jay, that was an excellent piece right there. Just for our audience, when you look at climate security and climate resilience, how much of the outreach are we looking at with respect to your agency, other agencies, first responders? One of the key takeaways from that video was before disaster hits. So walk us through that. What are some of the outreach challenges that you see, both from the federal, state, and local side, and how can we help? We as citizens, the last mile, how can we help where our communities are?
Well, the way I've structured the next several slides, I'm going to talk about some of those resources that FEMA makes available on that website. Again, we talk about building a resilient nation, building resiliency one individual at a time. And it starts with making sure people have the right information to make the right decisions.
When disaster hits, you can count on us. But even before the hurricanes, wildfires, and floods strike, we are here, working hard every day to keep you stronger, safer, and more prepared.
The first disaster memory that I have is Hurricane Andrew in August of 1992. So when the storm made landfall as a Category 5, unfortunately my family had not evacuated and we were still in the house. And seeing that the roof had peeled off of the house, the windows were smashed, the room was pretty much flooded, my toys were scattered all over the place, it really left such an impact on me that I knew that I never wanted that to happen again, either to myself or my loved ones, and I wanted to do everything I could to prevent it from happening to other people as well. So when we're social listening, it's a process that gives us a first-hand view into all the problems that disaster survivors have. They're talking about everything they've lost and everything that it's cost them, both personally and financially. And that takes an emotional toll on the people that are doing the listening. But there's a silver lining in that we can actually take that information that we gathered through that process and then use it to empower the people that are responding to get those resources and help that they need to the people that need it most. I'm Gabe Lugo, I'm a public affairs specialist, and I am FEMA.
For environmental historic preservation, we work with different program areas for disaster preparedness, hazard mitigation, emergency preparedness, and we make sure that our projects comply with historic preservation, environmental laws, executive orders, and regulations. We are making sure that the environment is protected and our resources are protected as well. The greatest sense of accomplishment for me as a regional environmental officer would be returning to a community that we assisted in the elevation of homes or the rebuilding of a bridge and seeing those projects completed, that FEMA was able to assist this community in becoming whole again. I am Stephanie Everfield. I'm a regional environmental officer, and I am FEMA.
When you first get to FEMA as an IT person, you think you're strictly doing computers, but you might be doing audiovisual, but it all depends on what's needed to complete the mission, and the mission is to support the survivors. We have the ability to bring communications to where there is no electricity, there is no internet or anything of that nature. We have the ability to provide support for that. We allow the PA people, public assistance people, that talk to the states to get states back on their feet. That's what we work with. Information technology, IT, is a critical link, but within FEMA, it's a critical link before, during, and after national emergencies and disasters. I am Lark McCants. I'm a senior IT specialist, and I am FEMA.
Fire and emergency medical services are about before, during, and after. They are the pinning point within a community. We're here to train, educate, and continue their professional development so that they can better serve their communities for all hazards, not just fire. There are communities all over the country that may not have parks and rec, they may not have other services, but they have a fire department. They have emergency responders that are attached to their community. And being able to share that knowledge and information throughout FEMA, I think, helps should FEMA ever have to enter a community. Those relationships are the basis for getting the job done. I am Tanya L. Hoover, Deputy Fire Administrator, and I am FEMA.
I'm a disability integration specialist, so I help everyone inside of FEMA, all the employees, serve people with disabilities the best way possible. One of the great things about FEMA is they've really sought, to increase knowledge, so they've come to me and say, hey, what kind of trainings can we offer? So what gives me my greatest satisfaction working at FEMA is that I get to do great things. I get to help people get the support that they need after one of the most horrible times in their lives. At FEMA, I get to be part of the solution. I'm Ed Ahern. I'm a disability integration specialist, and I am FEMA.
We are FEMA. People helping people. Before, during, and after disaster. Making our nation safer, stronger, and more prepared To learn more about our diverse programs and to find out how you can join us, visit FEMA.gov.
We moved to Washington, North Carolina because we wanted to move out of the Washington, D.C. metro area, just kind of trying to set up for retirement. So we purchased the house in January of 2018, and then we moved in the summer of 2018. And then within 3 months, we were dealing with a storm, Hurricane Florence. So as the storm approached, started to grow in strength, my wife and I both were concerned. We did choose to leave and went up to Richmond to stay with some family members. The house sat a lot lower than it currently does. It's roughly 2 feet off the ground. And when we finally did get back to the house, we were able to determine that yes, the subfloor had been damaged, some of the foundation had been damaged, all the insulation below the house, all the mechanicals were damaged. Structurally, it was still in question, but there was some damage to the piers and foundation work. So I realized that, okay, we have experienced a flood, water damage. And the good news was I knew we had flood insurance. The claim didn't fully cover the damage. So at that point, I reached out to my insurance agent and he said, well, you know, this is what they're going to pay. So I asked him about, okay, well, what other resources are available? Because I have additional damages that I feel need to be addressed. And my wife and I sat down, talked it over. We could have just took the money and just repaired the house as it sat and as it was. But we felt like, you know, here in North Carolina, hurricanes are a big deal. They come every year and they seem to be getting stronger. And also the season seems to be getting longer. There's more frequent storms or larger number of storms per year. So we felt like, you know, why not mitigate and protect the investment we made and do something about it? I reached out to my friend John, who works for FEMA as a building science engineer, who is an expert in both mitigation, building codes, and protection of property. John was kind enough to help me create a path and a timeline so I knew what I needed to do. FEMA has some resources that if you qualify, you can get some additional help other than just what's paid out from the initial claim. And so we had to make sure we met those criteria, which it did turn out as far as damage had to be 50% or greater of the market value at the time prior to the storm. So in doing so, I had to obtain several bids from local contractors to make sure I came up with that number and met the criteria. The insurance estimate was just below that threshold. So we did that. That got us kind of moving forward with the floodplain manager, who was able to write a letter, who then in turn passed that on to the insurance company, who then in turn passed that on to FEMA. Everybody signed off, dotted the I's, crossed the T's, and next thing I know, some funds became available. The FEMA resources were very helpful and insightful, gave me suggestions and ideas and information about how to not only build to today's codes, but even better and stronger to mitigate and protect the investment of the home. So what we did is we chose to raise the house. We wanted to elevate it enough to avoid having flood issues in the future. We did that, got it up high enough that even the mechanicals are safe under the house. Since we've raised it and got the foundation shored up, it's actually been great. It's done a great job. I haven't had any issues, any problems. We've had some heavy torrential rains, a little bit of flooding. I'm much more confident that it'll be fine because of the steps of mitigation and protection we have taken. So, you know, it was a lot of work, but at the end of the day, at the end of the project, it was very much well worth it. We were able to get up high enough and avoid future flood damage and sleep easy at night now.
Well, Jay, thanks so much for that one. That again, that's information that I think is very critical to everyone, especially when a lot of our communities and even the groups and organizations we work with, we don't talk every day about business continuity and disaster recovery. So that was very, very insightful there.
Well, and one thing that I would also like to point out, even on that video, was while that gentleman had used the modern building codes and used the FEMA resources, if you look to the right and left of the other houses, you could see that they had not been elevated. So, to my point of being able to communicate effectively, you can have the greatest technologies in the world. You can have, the greatest information and science-based information, but if it's not communicated effectively, you may not be able to change behavior. So, my next slide kind of talks a little bit to, the building code adoption. I don't know if we have time to go into that, but
so yeah, I was about to just ask.
Yeah.
We are about to close.
Okay.
But since we have,
I can make everything available.
Yes, yes. I was going to ask the question. We make the slide decks available, and we can also have a subsequent presentation. We definitely want to come back. But the questions that you and I discussed before were for young men and women who are looking for careers with FEMA. Talk about the STEM roles, and I know we touched on business continuity and disaster recovery, and then operational security. We have we overlayer that with some of the whenever there's a disaster, a lot of bad actors start moving into community.
Absolutely. So what you also have, you've got to protect people's PII.
Yes.
Personal data.
Yes.
Because people are at the worst crisis times in their lives, and they have to provide data to access resources, but they want to know that they don't have another catastrophe on their hands with their data is, compromised. So that is something that is vitally important for IT professionals, STEM professionals, cybersecurity professionals to make sure we're protecting data. One thing that I wanted this slide deck or my presentation to kind of highlight is this is but a snapshot of many of the programs that FEMA is doing or efforts FEMA has underway to affect climate resilience. Embedded in being able to have any of this data, whether it's weather data, and it's not just FEMA, it's FEMA and its partners, it's FEMA in the private sector, it's FEMA in academia, it's other agencies, knowing when the storms are coming, knowing the severity, being able to have the expertise to design, for the upcoming, disasters that we anticipate. All of those are STEM driven. To be able to participate, all of those are STEM driven. Those are the disciplines that are needed. So another aspect that I want this community to consider is how you communicate that information. Like we looked at that one slide and we saw the one individual had raised his home and it used the FEMA resources, but his neighbors had not. So how do we communicate to those neighbors? Another aspect is how underserved communities are more adversely impacted. In FEMA strategic plan, you saw how we want to build in equity, not only for what we do in our employees, but how our programs and our outcomes are given, to the general public, to survivors. And we want to make sure, as your STEM professional in your STEM community, that they are part of the planning and representation on those communities to get that information out. So, again, a mere snapshot, all this is available on FEMA.gov. I will make sure you have the resources, for these slides and for these links, so you can show them to your community, to the BDPA professionals, to the students. I want to make sure that they have access to it. So again, I want to invoke your motto, advancing careers from the classroom to the boardroom. I want each of the listeners to be able to connect the dots to plot their professional paths to not only have a job that pays the bills, but to have a fulfilling, meaningful career where their impacts are far-reaching and even earth-changing. So again, thanks for the opportunity to come and speak. And again, I will make all this information available. So thank you, Perry.
Yes, ma'am. Jay, thanks so much. Very insightful, and we look forward to continued dialogue. And also, earlier this morning, we had one of our special guests from NOAA, Dr. Danae Paulus. So
I saw it, yeah.
we definitely look at high performance computing opportunities, modeling, simulation, and all that information feeds other agencies, like you said, when you all collaborate. So this was very
right. And it fed that one slide I showed where the $1 billion disasters, right?
Yes. So, and as your audience, found out this morning, well, most people already know, but hurricane season starts June 1st, but we've had stranger weather events all year long. So again, we want to make sure that people are aware of the services that your agency provides. Again, thanks so much.
FEMA.gov, READY.gov.
Yes. We will have that on.
Yes.